Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, or wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a great day. It's David Baer here from Baer on Marketing, and the powerofreach.com is the program that we're in the midst of today. All right, and I now hear my voice in the background in my head, so I know that we're actually broadcasting, so that's a good thing. All right, so let's turn that off so I'm not listening to a 30-second delay of myself. Anyway, I am joined today by a very, very exciting guest. I have been looking forward to having this conversation for ever since I got her to agree to come on and join me on this broadcast. So I am joined by Sensei Subira Folami. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. Good for you.
And Subira and I know each other from the 22 social world. We met this past December down in San Diego, where we were just both attending a holiday celebration, and turned out to be a strategy session and mastermind session that both of us sort of just happened into, and I think happily so, because some great things are coming out of the conversations that we've been a part of over the last several weeks, and I'm really excited to share Subira's story with everybody out there, and to continue learning stuff from her. So the reason I wanted to have Subira on today was she has been a spiritual life coach. She's worked in sort of with a bent, I think you told me at one point, on sort of finances and things for people as well. You also have all of these other amazing things going on in your world. You're a black belt martial artist and then you also focus on a kind of yoga that I've never even heard of, that you'll have to tell us about.
Sure.
And then one day, a few years ago, you got some pretty bad news, and you learned that you had breast cancer, and you dealt with this in the most public of ways, and that's really what I want to make sure we share with everybody today, because you incorporated YouTube and Facebook into your life in a way that I think many people who were in the situation that you were in may not even consider. And so I'd like to get into that story and how that all happened, and learn a little bit about what you have been doing with that since. But first, we should check in and sort of see, how are you doing health-wise? You're clearly in a different place today than you were just a few years ago.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. Yeah, I'm it's what they call no evidence of disease. So they call that NED.
Okay.
So right now, they don't really use the word remission anymore. Technically, they can't tell you that you don't have cancer, because it could be the smallest little, all it needs is a little tiny super microscopic size. So, but as it stands, there's no evidence of disease, and I still go in every 28 days for checkup, and it's not a chemo treatment, but I'm still in the infusion clinic. As a matter of fact, that's Monday. So it's still very upfront and center, part of my life, part of my everyday, conversation, my everyday experience. And so you will see that on my Facebook page, not every day, but it's part of my experience daily. Yeah. So I talk about it in my social media posts. But I'm good. I'm healthy. I feel great, and so thank you for asking.
Brilliant, indeed. So I want you to take us back to life before cancer came about. You were running a professional coaching business, and can you sort of talk a little bit about what you were doing at the time?
Yeah. So like you said, I was a spiritual life coach for 4 years. Before the 4 years directly preceding the diagnosis, I was being trained by a spiritual person. Some of you may have heard her if you watch Oprah Winfrey, Iyanla Vanzant. She has her show called Iyanla Fix My Life.
Okay.
So I went to the school that she has. I was there for 4 years, and I finished that program in 2009. The diagnosis came in 2011. So in that in between time, I was doing spiritual life coaching with an emphasis on prosperity and abundance. So I was doing a lot with people's mindset around and personal development around money and that kind of thing.
Okay, so then suddenly 2011 comes along, and you get this news about your cancer. So initially, I think most people would be very focused inward, and perhaps that's what your initial reaction was. But I'm curious, because that's not ultimately what you ended up doing with it. You did something in a very public way, and I'm curious what led to you to pick up a phone or your computer and record something and share it publicly.
It was interesting, David, because I hadn't done any videos before then.
Okay.
I didn't exist on YouTube before I picked up my camera, and it was to tell the world that I had received a diagnosis of breast cancer. And that was about maybe 2 to 3 weeks after we had run a crazy battery of tests to just make sure it was what they said it was.
Yeah.
And once we were sure and I knew what I needed to do, I put myself on blast. And the main reason for that was I didn't want to have to tell the story a million times. So I just figured I'm just going to say this one time. And the other piece to it, honestly, David, was I knew that this was an experience that, at least in this way, I would only have one time. Let's say the worst happened and cancer came back. I would have an experience of cancer. So knowing that I would only go down this road, you can't step in the same river twice. Part of me wanted to have as complete of an experience as possible, and I didn't want to miss any of it. As kind of weird as that sounds, I knew that I probably wouldn't be present to myself very much. I did shut down quite a lot. I mean, emotionally, to get through the physical things required, you have to kind of shut down emotionally. However, if you look at the videos, which I haven't gone back, I'm not able to go back and look at them yet.
Sure.
The few times I've tried, I looked a mess. I mean, I looked like I was in my emotions. But I knew I had emotionally shut down. What this process taught me was how to actually be in my emotions on camera and share that authentically with the world, even when I thought I wasn't. I actually really was.
Yeah. Well, I've had a different perspective, obviously, having viewed this from the outside, and I think that there's of course, how could it not be authentic, but a purity and an authenticity to the messages that you are sharing, and clearly other people felt so as well, because you developed a considerable following, and I guess at some point you had to have recognized that there were actually people out there listening to the story. How did that come about? How did you become aware of the fact that you actually had some people following you?
Well, because I would go to my YouTube channel and people were leaving me messages, of support. People were asking me questions about, they had just received a diagnosis. They were afraid. They were wondering, what to expect. Some people just emotionally wanted to vent, or they had a loved one who was going through and they didn't want to ask them. So I became kind of this resource for people. So that was happening. Of course, my Facebook page, which was where I really did the majority of my posting.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm connected with most people who I know, of course. So um, every day, I mean, I would post something and it would be 100, 200 people commenting, cheering me on. It sustained me. It really, really did. And then there was something else I was going to say. Come back to it. I'll
Yep.
remember.
So, so I want to bring this back to sort of our subject at hand, which is, there's a lot of people in the world of professional coaching
Mm-hmm.
who are confused, overwhelmed, intimidated by the whole world of doing stuff online. And here you were in probably a very precarious state at that point, but you were doing something using internet resources, and you were very focused, it seems, in the activities that you were engaging in. And it wasn't necessarily with any business purpose or anything in, any goal in mind to go out and teach people about this experience or anything. That's clearly not how it started. Perhaps you had a goal once you decided to sustain this activity, but it was probably one of the most challenging times for anybody to enter into anything like this. So,
Yeah.
so I wonder, understanding that there's people who are professionally just afraid to do this. Clearly, you have a very valuable experience and lesson that you can share simply from saying, "Hey, look, I did this, and I was in this situation." So, how easy, given all of the circumstances you were dealing with, was it for you to just technically deal with shooting a video and putting it up online or sharing some posts with some consistency?
It was actually really easy because for me it was you have to remember I was dealing with literally life and death. And so kind of in the back of my mind, I wanted to leave a record of the fact that I was here and what I thought about and if if this was it, I wanted to have some type of stamp that, Subira was here kind of thing. And what happened actually, David, is the way I realized I had a following. I mean, I didn't. It's kind of weird to even say that to me, but I was in foreclosure for the 2 years I was in treatment, and I had a copywriter friend and a friend who was a real estate agent, and they did a GoFundMe for me.
Okay.
And so I wasn't involved at all, except I'd made a post, all these posts for 6 months or whatever.
Yeah. So
And
for people who don't know what GoFundMe is, it's a crowdfunding place for anything, but in this case, it was for your personal needs at that point. Yeah.
Yep. And when I started watching the money roll in, I realized that I'd fallen upon this, like I was driving traffic, not on purpose. Like I didn't know what was it was an unconscious competence.
Sure.
But what I learned, the most important thing, David, was that if you have the wherewithal to get in front of a camera and you have something you are passionate about. I was passionate about living. That was it.
Yeah.
And all of my conversations with the camera was about my thoughts of living. And I was extremely passionate about that, of course. So that came across and people resonated with that. And because they resonated with that, traffic started going in that direction and they started telling other people, and people were coming to my different online properties, which at that time was YouTube and Facebook. And then they started donating money. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm driving traffic with this message about living. And by having some technical pieces in place in the background, money came in and I was able to, survive financially.
Yeah.
You know.
So okay, so you had this realization. You saw how the mechanics were actually helping you in a process. So did you then start to change anything or formalize anything or institute
Yeah,
any particular practices? And what was that? Because I don't, before these interviews, maybe there's a little setup. I don't know this part of the story, and this is
right.
the part that I'm most intrigued by, because I want this to be a helpful lesson to folks out there who are saying, this is scary, this is overwhelming. Well, you went through it, and you didn't do this intentionally. So what did you discover, and what did you put
hmm
in place?
So first, I have to say that during those 2 years between 2009 and 2011, I had decided I wanted to be on the internet. I wanted that laptop lifestyle. So I
Yeah.
started studying with all these internet marketing gurus out there, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I spent a ton of money, like probably I'm sure a few of your viewers have, but I hadn't quite just the tumblers hadn't fallen in place. Um, so during that time that I was down, I actually pulled out everything that I had purchased and I started studying it. When I saw
Mhm.
I was doing
Yeah.
this and I didn't know how I was doing it, I said, okay, I spent way too much money. Let me go back and look at what I studied and figure out, re-engineer this, what is happening. And so, yes, then I started posting with, intention.
Okay.
I had a calendar. Like I knew when I was going to talk about what things. I started thinking about my messages before I put them out there. So it wasn't just random things. They look very relaxed because that's just my personality. See, I'm here
Mhm.
in my little. That's my personality, right? I'm a
Yeah.
yogi, and I just like to chill. So I didn't get all stiff. I stayed authentic to who I was, but I gave thought to when I was posting, what I was posting. Is my message cohesive? And I
So
started. Mhm.
So I'm curious if you had a sense of the types of content that you may have had. There was maybe a raw a passion and sincerity, or you just needed to, maybe it was cathartic initially, and then
Mhm.
you added some structure to it.
Mhm.
What if anything, in terms of the content of what you were doing, might have changed?
So I did from time to time speak directly about the cancer experience. So I would take my camera into doctor's appointments. So
Okay.
there was content that had to do with, what you need to do to take care of yourself while you're going through this process. So there was some health related stuff.
Hmm.
There was mindset stuff, right? I did speak about finances because that's a huge deal. I mean, cancer will wipe your finances out in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, there was spirituality that I talked about. So I took the major components of what I was dealing with and kind of chunked it down and said, okay, if I'm going to post something 5 days a week or 7 days a week, what are the 7 major topics I want to talk about?
Hmm.
And I made myself a little calendar. So and then I would kind of map out. And I realized what I was doing there. I was taking people on a journey.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
And
real storytelling, uh,
yes.
in a very grand way. I mean, people were
hmm
seeing every little element of the story, and that's terrific.
Yeah. So when I got clear that I was actually taking people on, one of my favorite guys is Joseph Campbell, he wrote Hero Has a Thousand Faces.
Hmm.
And he talks about the monomyth, which is we're all going through hero's journey repeatedly, whether it's Luke Skywalker or me or you. And when I realized, oh, I'm in a hero's journey, I can actually tell this from using that template, everything fell into place for me.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So now there's some very specific intent in place. I keep forgetting to actually run the cameraman here, and so I keep having it on you. So forgive me. And I'm also communicating with folks in the chat box as well. So,
Okay.
um, anyway, so you now have some very specific intent here in what
hmm
you're doing. You know that you're driving traffic. You know that there's a funding source for your situation that you're dealing with. Did you tie any of that into what you were doing content-wise? Did you give instructions? Did you have calls to action? Did you refer people places? Any of that sort of thing?
You know what I did? I would just, I'm a real low key chick.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just put a link. I would say whatever it is I was going to say,
Yep.
and then I would just put a link. And I figured, you know what? They'll have sense enough to click it if they're curious.
Sure.
If I have stimulated them enough, and if my message resonates with them, they're going to read, and then they're going to see this hyperlink, and they're going to be, well, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. So now today, yes, sometimes I have calls to action.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more, and it took a while. I will admit, it took a minute. It took my copywriter friend to tell me, Subira, you have earned the right by
Mm-hmm.
what you have lived through. You have earned the right to give a call to action, because I felt so nervous about that.
That's a big point. That's really important, because I think, especially for folks who are in coaching situations where they feel that they're not in a promotional or sales or marketing role,
Mm-hmm.
that there's wisdom there, that they're delivering assistance or guidance to people. They're helping people move forward. You are
Right.
helping people in their situations,
Yes.
and you earned the right. And I think we have to remember that as professionals who are consultative advisors, that often our role is going to help people solve problems, and we have earned the right to be able to assist them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you had that realization, and that you had that conversation with that copywriter friend.
Mm-hmm. That was a pivotal day for me, when she said, you are an authority based on what you lived through. At 41, there are not very many women who are thinking, I may not be here in a month.
Sure.
And have lived to the other side of that. You have something to share, some wisdom, some inspiration, etc., some knowledge that most people at your age don't have. And so you are an authority based on the fact that you lived. And I was like, whoa. So when I got that, I was able to my posture changed quite a bit in my posts. So if you go and you look at my posts today, they're very much from a place of, I'm still a humble person, but you can feel the authority there. I know what I know now.
Mm-hmm. Now you've I think sort of shifted in terms of the type of work that you're doing. Even though you have that message out there, I think that message can be a very powerful message for any number of people in any number of situations. Mm-hmm. And you've chosen to actually focus your work in a slightly different direction now. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what you're doing now, and where that shift came from. What was the basis for you deciding to start this new direction of your work?
Yep. So I am still very much a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to the other side of this really physical part of the treatment made me change a lot of things, from my nutrition to to movement. So I became a yogi. I was already a black belt martial artist. I hold a first-degree black belt in American Kempo, and that art is a very hard. There's usually hard and soft arts. That particular art is very hard style, and I
Mm-hmm.
knew I could not do that and recover. So I went online and I typed in martial arts and yoga, and what popped up was this form called Budokan.
Okay.
It's a fusion of both those things, a synthesis of martial arts and yoga. So it's very beautiful. It's basically a warrior's interpretation of yoga. Yeah, so it's
I've,
very beautiful and very warrior-esque. It's
yeah,
not.
I've
It is
seen
not for
poses
the.
that you've done where it looks very much like that, exactly as you're describing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is that part of my work, and I've been able to combine life coaching with that, with supporting people in getting their messages out. So
Mm-hmm.
I will do either individual work or um, group lessons, where at the beginning of it they come into a yoga or martial arts class, but we're looking at their life.
Mm-hmm.
and what it is they have come to the planet to say. Where is their journey taking them? And I'm now teaching people this, basically take them through the steps I went through in 2011, 12, and 13, about their hero's journey.
Sure.
So I use the body as just a conduit to open up so that people can actually relax and get in touch with what they are to say today, which could be different 10 years from now or 10 years previously. But in this moment, what is the message that you have to give? Loosen up, and then let's do a process to support them in identifying their journey and the archetypes within their journey so that they can actually get in front of a camera and tell their story in a way that is natural to them. And so that people can organically attract their perfect, tribe to them for whatever the purposes are.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
And so you have sort of developed an audience of a certain type of individual. I think we were talking about this in our conversation earlier today in our mastermind. You're starting to attract people in maybe in the clergy, people who are in the I don't know. I use the word. What did I say earlier today? Woo. I say woo woo.
Woo. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I am the woo woo. The woo woo social marketer. Absolutely. So those, I mean, artists, yogis, metaphysicians, healers, light workers, enlightened entrepreneurs, that kind of woo woo person, who typically, wants nothing to do with technology, and they usually kind of actually shy away from conversation around money as well.
Yeah.
So I'm able to bring all of the work that I've done in previous incarnations of myself, and support those people in getting grounded, and that's where the body work, the yoga, and the martial arts come in. Getting grounded so that we can together figure out what it is they're supposed to be doing today, and then being able to set up systems in the background that create the point of sale so they don't actually have to. And that's really the beauty of the technology that you and I are using, so people don't have to actually it's all automated. It can be all automated for them, and they can just do the work that they want to do.
Sure. So how might you? I assume that you've probably had this conversation where there's some resistance with some of your clients who you're taking through this process. Can you give us an example of what sort of process somebody might go through? That's let's say we have a somebody who's very passionate about their art form and they want to share it with the world, or they're very passionate about a particular lifestyle choice that they endorse and promote, but they'd really like to be talking about that and not about the commercial aspect of it. So what are some of the considerations based on the type of experience that you've had and what you're training that you recommend people go through? Because obviously we don't need to suddenly, open up a Shopify store or start selling stuff on Amazon or create information products for ClickBank in all of these situations.
Right.
There's something in between.
Yeah. Well, I personally use 22 Social, that particular platform. So it's really a matter of supporting the person in kind of doing a mind dump of their message, creating a free offer. I usually have them write, or create videos, because that's my thing. Some videos that they'll give away, or and then a little program that they want to sell. What is it? What is something inexpensive that you can offer at the beginning? But all of this behind 22 Social, so that as the person, as their client is going through their funnel, they're not actually having to deal with the money piece. That's like the big thing that I have to help them kind of get over.
Sure.
So putting putting it within Facebook, because that's where everybody's at. You know, they want to run around and I want to build a website and I'm like, no. Like, let's just make this real simple. Like, get yourself a store in the mall where everybody's already running around. Everybody's happy. Just set your store up right there and say what you came to say, and have, you know, items in place that make sense, and let them walk through your funnel, which, you know, you may want to think of that as your store. Just let them walk through and have an experience of you and with you, and put no pressure on them to buy anything. And guess what? Something happens in the mind where you give so much that psychologically a person can't take it anymore. Most people, you'll hit a tipping point and they'll be like, I have to, you've given me so much, I want to give you some money.
That's great. It's just like those links that you put under the video without really, you know, promoting them. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, this is great. These are amazing lessons, and there's more that I hope we will get to learn from you moving forward. I'm so happy that you've come in and joined our Facebook group, and I'm going to be asking you some more questions. So,
Please do.
you know, going
awesome.
forward. And I hope that we'll have the chance to have this sort of conversation again, you know, in a more technical way, and excited about all of the possibilities that await us on all of our 22 social-based projects and beyond. So, hey, Subira, I want to thank you so very much for joining us today. Where can people find more about you or connect with you?
So I'm happy to receive people at my personal page, which is Subira Folami. That's kind of like the way people get to know me and get comfortable with my message. And then my business page is Sensei Subira.
And these are both Facebook pages, so people type these into the Facebook search bar? Graph search? Okay.
Sensei Subira. And if you're interested in yoga, I have a page called Sacred Warrior Yoga.
Well, great. There's lots of ways and lots of aspects of you that people can connect with. And if you are here in the Power of Reach Facebook group, obviously you'll be able to connect directly with Subira as well there, as she's also a member. So Subira Folami, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thanks for having me, David. It's been awesome.
Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.